Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are back to discuss Shadow and Bone. We're going to be talking about Season 1, Episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 is Like Calls to Like.
Right.
You know what? The way I was trying to say it was like petals on the wind. You know what I mean? That's where I expected it to go, but that's not the way the sentence flows. It's
like is modifying calls.
Yeah, exactly. So like calls to like. Here, like is like a noun doing an action, and it just threw me. Okay. And episode 4 is Every Monstrous Thing.
Yes.
So, listen. Apologies, we weren't here last week because I went out of town with some girlfriends. I had a good time. So I'm sorry that we weren't able to record because leading up to that, I thought I was getting more things done than I was. You know. I know you know.
Of course.
Where you just...
It's just as well because I was sick.
But, so. Right. And so it worked out and I was like, Sarah, I don't know if I can. I got so much to do. Yeah. So I was out of town last weekend, and then just FYI, Sarah and I will talk about it after the podcast when we go off the air, but I was kind of messing around with the schedule with this upcoming, before it was potential trip to Korea, now it's definite trip to Korea. And so I don't know what recording is going to look like while I'm there. So the way I have it set, I think we're going to take like a week break again, but I'm not sure. But you and I could talk about it and discuss the best way to go.
Sure.
I'm literally just going to Korea to live like I do here. It's not like every day I have plans I'm going to be out. No. I'm going to be working. I'm going to be doing Korean class. I'm going to be doing podcast stuff. But in terms of like podcasting, arranging it, it's just the time difference, which, you know, it may not work for everybody. So, because right now I think it is like super early morning there, like 4 or 5 a.m. maybe. Anyway, so we'll figure it out. But just to let you guys know, I'm taking kind of the trip of a lifetime for me, my lifetime, my first international trip. And so I'm really excited about it. And, you know, there'll be some delays because of that. Just bear with me. But anyway, these episodes, ma'am.
Yes.
First of all, I like this season way more than I liked last season.
Sure.
And I liked last season.
Yeah.
2, I really like these episodes. I'm so happy to say that now it's 4 episodes in a row. I'm just pleasantly surprised because, again, I enjoyed season 1 well enough, but I was not, I don't know. I just didn't have like high expectations.
Sure.
And it's been better than I expected. And it's just really good, I think, for me. There are certain things, like we'll talk about it. There are certain like, you know, my thing has always been, if you don't make your characters do stupid things to get them in the positions you need them to be in, like I respect it a lot more if it's like something that's out of their control, or if it's a clever way that you can position them so that they're, you know, but if it's like, why are you having this conversation in the fucking hallway?
Why are you making out in the hallway when you have a room right there?
Exactly. Why are you looking so fucking frightened? Just fix your face. Just play it off. And now you're eaten by the chittering. See what happens? So, like, so stuff like that, like, you know, we'll talk about it. I don't, like, that's just annoying, but I realize that's just the way the show is going to be. And I'm sorry, I'm just still not here for Alina's Disney acting. I'm not here for her character. She is... I wanted to do a post back when we were doing articles on the website of like the top show, like a BuzzFeed type thing, where it'd be like the top shows where the supporting characters are way more likable than the lead.
Right.
Like Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. And this would be it for me. Like, she is literally a saint, the sun summoner. She is it. The show literally revolves around her. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is just infinitely more interesting. And you were saying on Twitter earlier that
she's not supposed to be this way.
Because I tweeted, I was like, she is so annoying, and I tagged you. And you were just, and I could just hear you say it, and I could feel your disappointment, because this is not book Alina.
It isn't.
Yeah. Nico, stop. Get out of here. So, how are you feeling? I know you've already watched these, and you told me earlier you have rewatched these episodes. What did you think of them?
Right. Yeah, I mean, entertainment value-wise, you know, especially when I first watched these episodes, they were really enjoyable, especially the whole thing in episode 4 with Kaz and the crew. And of course, I'm going to cite, like, I'm falling into the trap of, you know, of the show, of the writers that want me to like the Crows better, just like everyone else is. Like, all the good shit is happening with the Crows. So naturally, I'm going to like that.
Yeah.
But like, it was so clever and so good, and you're just like, yes, you know, those actors, so good. I loved it. It's dark, it's, you know, everybody's glaring
and
hot.
It's moving, and it's interesting.
Yes,
it's just
moving.
really good.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
makes sense. And you know, to me, these 2 episodes in particular, again, entertainment value, great stuff. But it becomes very apparent in these 2 episodes that the Crow plot is very tight. It's intricately planned. There's a lot of emotional development for most of the characters. And everyone is getting individual screen time for the most part. And then the actual Shadow and Bone stuff is like slapped together. It has no emotional resonance. Nothing makes sense. It's gutted. The characters are crap. And like,
it's predictable too.
It is. It's predictable,
very predictable
because it's just boiled down to the very basic stuff, and you know, none of the characterization within that makes any sense. And if you really take a look at it, even without knowing what happens in the book, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm wondering what happened to the writers from the season 1.
Are they the same writers or no?
I don't think they are. I think there are a few, and then some that aren't, because they just do not care about this plot, and they did not even sit down to pay it the most minor attention. If you're like, but why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why is the Darkling just a bad guy?
Yeah, especially because you have a scene like when he's talking to his mom, which I liked, like, because I just like her, where she's basically like, she lays out what's wrong with him as a character, I should say. Like, like, she's like, dude, you just got us back where we were before, being persecuted again, you know? And then she tells him, you know, you could have earned her love instead of trying to claim her power, you ding dong. Like, and then where she tells him, you know, I taught you everything except compassion. Like, she's basically like, you're a piece of shit and you're making things worse. Like, you're for lack of a better word, you know, he's being an idiot. And the fact that, like, his only, like, comeback is to, like, storm out of the room. I'm like, yeah, it's not compelling. And also, I don't know why I should care about the Ravkin, oh my God, what's the other people? Furidan?
Yeah.
That whole thing, because they hardly pay attention to it. And I think somebody even said that, right? Like, the fact that the Vasily was focusing so much on the Grisha.
Right.
And not the
He's
issue
neglecting the war.
The war, right. But like,
and they're at war on 2 fronts. They dropped the whole part where they're actually also at war with Shuhan, which is why everybody is giving Alina a hard time in season 1.
Exactly. So it's like, why should I care about that stuff? Because you guys aren't spending like any time on it. Even when we met like Vasily, and like it turned out who Sturmhond. I'm just gonna keep fucking that up. Sturmhond really is. I was like, you'll see in my notes, I was like, he's a prince? Like, I didn't get that he was the prince. until they were on the horses and he was talking about his brother and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, he's pretty fucking substantial. And I don't know. It's just something like for me, I guess maybe, I don't know. I'm not a casual viewer, but I just feel like they didn't spend enough time so that by the time we get to this, it meant anything.
I feel like they don't want to either. They don't even like the Shadow and Bone plot. That's all I can figure. Because they just want to like turn that part into like cackling villains and like excuse people that don't need to be excused just so they can like hurry up and get to
the cool shit and Ketterdam.
Right. And I mean, I am interested in that.
Yeah.
That isn't Shadow and Bone.
But it isn't
even a crow plot.
Yeah.
It's made up.
Yeah.
You know? And even the times like, you know, like with the Darkling versus his mother. I mean, she's a great actress. Zoe Wanamaker is incredible. And them together, so good. But none of that conversation actually makes sense. Like, that doesn't... None of what she says and none of what he says coincides with what we understand about either one of their characters in their past in season 1.
Well, because was it, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not, you guys know I'm super fuzzy on season 1, was her turn on him? Well, first of all, we didn't know that was his mother until the betrayal, right? Like, until she told Alina, you need to get the fuck out of here, right?
More or less, yeah.
But, like, that was just new, right? Like...
Yeah. Well, they had always had... they had almost always had this resentful relationship between them. And so when she says, you know, we'll get more into it, but he was a compassionate guy. He did do that. He made the fold accidentally.
Oh, that's right.
Trying to protect the Grisha, and she was ready to abandon the Grisha.
That's right.
So, like, that's wrong.
So the fact that, I get you now.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that doesn't make sense. Because she is very much like, look what you're doing to the Grisha, and yeah.
Right. He's protecting the Grisha. He's, you know, we'll get to it in more detail, but like these 2 episodes establish that like Nikolai is the good Grisha harborer. And then the Darkling is the bad Grisha harborer. They're doing the same job.
Yeah, that's true.
And in a way, Nikolai is worse because he's enabling the army who are massacring the Grisha.
And he's trying to like... I mean, and I guess that's what I understand, because his brother... first of all, the king is useless, right?
He was poisoned.
Oh, okay. Is that why? So wait a minute. Is that him?
Yeah.
Wait, that's him sitting there?
He's just a potato. Yeah.
Okay, because when those fucking chitterings came through the ceiling, he did not budge. And I was like, it's in my nose. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with him? I was like, is that a dummy sitting in the chair?
Yeah.
Like a prop? I completely forgot or missed the fact that man is like catatonic.
Yes.
Okay.
And, you know, and I don't really love that, because in a way it turns him kind of into a joke. And then that enables us to forget that in season 1, he was serially raping Genya.
That's right.
And oppressing all the Grisha.
That's right.
You know, so, and like wanted to enslave, you know, he was part of the reason why they captured Alina and all that kind of stuff. So he's a monster.
You know what? I'm not a casual viewer because we podcasted it and I had to like pay attention and take notes and all that stuff with season 1. But I think I'm probably like most viewers who haven't read the books, where I didn't watch this again. You know, I watched the first season, then I had the little recap, and it's super problematic for viewers like me that this storyline, the stuff with the king and the wars, is so vastly different, or just you know, it's not cohesive to what we know from season 1. Because, again, if you didn't rewatch it and have this down cold, it's like this whole family, it felt like a comedy.
Yeah. Yes.
This
They're
whole
like
thing. But it's not, it shouldn't be. Like, tonally, it's off. No, like you said, knowing what you know about who they are and the things they did in season 1 that got us here, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't tonally play the way it's playing.
Right. You should be seeing these people kind of like Stalin, and you should be looking at the Darkling thinking he's got a point.
Right.
And instead they've just made these guys into comedy routine, and gotten rid of them. Right. And then, now the Darkling is just a growling bad guy. And
I wonder why does it seem like they know what to do with this? Just even in terms of like, again, the tone and it being cohesive. Like, why? I wonder why. They just,
it really feels like they want to spend all their emotional energy on Kaz and why he is the way he is and the dynamics within that group. And so they don't want to spend the time that it would take to really, I don't know. Maybe they feel like it's funny to me in a lot of the fandoms that I follow, how between seasons, writers and shows exploit the excitement that fandoms have around gray villains, like Damon, the Darkling, all that kind of stuff. And they really play that dynamic up. And then when you come to the season, they're like, you're a horrible person for liking them. They're clearly the villain. And they just boil it down until you have, and they make cuts out of the script and out of the filming that make it to where you have no choice but to eventually agree, because they've turned them into a cackling, mustache twirling villain when they're not supposed to be that way. If you look back at last season, about all the people that surrounded the Darkling, his little group, remember Ivan and Fedor and Anna and all those people, Marie, everybody knew that they weren't necessarily 100% right, but they had like a subtlety and reasons, and they understood the cost and that you're investing a certain amount of this to get this outcome. Right. And there aren't any of those people. They didn't even bring Fedor back. And that would have been so interesting instead of Fruzy, who's just, you know how I feel about her. She's just this little garbage girl next to him. Yeah.
Like, who are you even? Like, why are you
glaring out of her wig, gladly.
Like the scene where he told her to we're talking about the same girl, right? The one who would to get Jenya out of the cell, take her away. That was so awkwardly shot, the way she kind of because it's like when you have to scoot by somebody's chair. Right. It just looked awkward.
Now imagine replacing her with Fedor and him being conflicted because Ivan, his husband, was killed on the skiff. Right. And Alexander came back, and he still is loyal to Alexander, but he is torn because he feels that something has gone wrong, and this man that he served unquestioningly for 20 years is slipping out of his control. Right. That would be so much more interesting.
They would not. I feel like, I wonder if the writers, because there is going to be that Crows spin-off series, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder if those writers really wanted to go write on that show, but they're not. So they're like, fuck it, we're going to get
They already have the first season of the show written. Wow. They said that they did that between the seasons because they wanted to go ahead and pitch it to Netflix. Mm-hmm. So they've already put that together. And they're writing to the spinoff. They don't even care about this show.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate, but...
It is.
But we are going to talk about it. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So, this was interesting. Episode 3 began with the decoupling of their ship. Oh my God. Can I just call him the prince now? I don't know. What's his name? Nikolai.
Yeah.
There we go. Back then he was still the name that I fuck up for some reason. I don't know why. That Stromhound.
It's just weird.
It's weird. And I don't know why I expect it to be, but what I expect it to be, it's just not it.
If it was Stormhound, that would make more sense.
Yes.
But it's Sturmhound.
Yeah, two words that I actually say and know together. Yeah. But yeah, the ship that they're on, the lifeboat, if you will, it's like it can fly, basically. It's like a flying mini ship that they're going to use to get through, and then with Alina's help, pass through the fold. And I loved Alina's reaction because she was like, fuck this. Everything she's been through, everything she could do, and she was like, I'm going to sit right over here.
I'm going to lay on the ground, and I'm not looking.
But yeah, she eventually does. And I think he said they call this the hummingbird. Yeah. Anything you want to say about that scene before? You know how I do. I'm just going to go through, and if you need to jump in.
Yep, just a couple random notes. His original ship, the big ship, is called Volpolny, and that means Wolf of the Waves. And the wolf is a symbol of the royal family. So she maybe, if she had thought about it, maybe she could put two together, but she's a little dense. And then just interesting as far as a costuming choice, after the last episode, she stops wearing the kefta. So she stops identifying essentially as a Grisha. And this begins the season 2 message of the show, which to me is insane, where it says that it's preferable to be less special. And that's the opposite of the empowerment of season 1, when she finally learned that she is special, that she's powerful, that she's always been Grisha. That was a message that Ivan told her and that the Darkling told her. And she's beginning to come into her own. This season, it's like Grisha are dirt and freaks, and they deserve to die. And you should just be a peasant.
Last season, it was empowerment. This season, it was like, all right, little lady.
Right.
Let's just settle down.
This season is like full X-Men. It's just okay.
But you know what? I saw something on Twitter, and it was showing the costuming throughout the season and showing how, as Mal and Alina's characters grow further apart, their color, right now they wear the complementary colors, and you really see it in this scene. Like that red and green type burnt kind of orange colors. They look good together. But I guess as the season goes on, she starts, I want to say, dressing more like
official.
Yeah. Kind of leaving him behind.
Right.
And literally no, why? Although, not gonna lie, I was kind of shipping her and Nikolai.
Listen, of all the people she's got chemistry with this season, Nikolai is number 1.
Right? And it's all him.
Let's
be honest.
He's like 99% Nikolai.
It's like, the actor's doing a fine enough job and is, being charismatic, and then the character is written,
Yeah.
He
actually looks like he likes her.
Right, exactly. Oh my God. Sorry to other shippers.
I'm not.
I don't want to be offending any parts of fandoms. Okay, so I'm moving on if you don't have anything else.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so Jesper is mad because Nina was shot, Inej is hurt, Wylan almost got hurt, and Kaz seems unconcerned. He's more concerned with the information that they got out of the office.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Super focused. He's in there having his flashbacks to the body barges because he's the only person that gets flashbacks this season. Definitely not anybody like the Darkling who might have 900 years of flashbacks. Just keep going back to Kaz.
It is so obvious which storyline is like Mama's favorite, like in the writer's room. Like this is so favored. They get Inez is being okay. Why isn't Nina more hurt? She healed herself?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's also healing Inez. And they find out in this information that they got on Pekka that he has supposedly has a glass factory in a place called Applebrook, but Kaz is like, ain't no sand out there.
There's nothing to make the glass from.
Right. So go check it out. And then he tells Nina about basically some sort of like prison fight club. Mm-hmm. And that she should go speak to a specific guard. And that guard can possibly get her into Matthias.
Right.
And also in this scene, I think Wylan, that's his name, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. He's the one who mentions... Have you watched Interview with the Vampire, the TV show?
A couple episodes.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
They mention this because obviously it takes place in New Orleans with the levees and stuff and about like the water rising and something. And so because they were in the mausoleum, right? In the cemetery. And they mention that like that Inez is going to be fine. Like we don't have to, something about like move in here for real or something like that.
Right.
And Wylan has that like little fun fact about how they're not burying people, and he mentioned like floating bodies.
Right.
And I didn't get that. So that's what they did. Oh, because of the pots.
Right.
They just pushed
people
the
were
dead
dying so fast that they just threw them out in the on a barge.
Okay. You guys got to forgive me. I literally just watched these episodes, and so I'm like going by my notes where I still had questions. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even, I forgot that I later learned about what happened with the people and the pox and stuff. Okay. So that's what he was talking about. Excuse me, with the bodies floating. And then we learn here that through another flashback, that his brother went into business with Pekka.
Right.
Investing like what money they had, like everything they had.
And while he's doing that, Kaz is on the floor playing with Pekka's daughter, and she's like running a game on him, like as an 8-year-old.
Like, okay, first of all,
like scamming him.
I'm sorry, that was a 30-year-old, 8-year-old. Okay, I can't remember. Oh, when he was like, "It's a trick" or something, and she was like, "Of course it is." But whatever she said, all of that, like the way she said it, her voice, the look on her face, I was like, "Who is this grown ass woman?" That's right. Anything before we move on from that?
No, it's interesting, I guess, that Saskia, the girl, allegedly the girl, I guess, is she's just running a shell game, and so
that's right.
That is relevant to later. So
I was just going to ask, because I don't think I picked up on that, because his son plays a big part later, Pekka. So this is his daughter. Mm-hmm. Have we met her in present day?
No. And she would be, an
adult. Like,
an adult. Yeah.
Okay. So the Darkling is talking to his mama. He got her in a cage. I don't know why this tickled me so much, because I feel like last time we saw her, she was just in a room. Right. Like he opened the door.
She was in a cave. Yeah.
Yeah, like, in a cave or something. Right. That's right. No, he had her locked in the cave. Right. Okay. He brought her home and put her right in like a crate like a puppy.
Yeah. In the office.
Yeah. Oh my God, but if you keep an eye on her.
I love how she's like, "Stop lurking. I can hear you outside."
That's right.
That's such a motherly thing. And he is lurking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Listen, he is the epitome of in his feelings. This man is always in his feelings.
Always in his feelings. Which is why her accusing him of not having feelings is hilarious. He's only feelings.
Yeah, he's just walking feels. So much that he has like feels coming out of him, those little chitterings.
Yes.
So, yeah, she basically reads him for filth. I should have raised you better. I lacked giving you compassion. We're right back where we started with the Grisha being hunted and persecuted. And then the line about, because at this point, no, I'm going to wait because I think I have this written later. But when they bring up Alina, she says you could have earned her love instead of claiming her power.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like I mentioned before, there's so many problems with this conversation. I love seeing them act together, and it was great seeing them spit back and forth at each other. But they didn't, as I mentioned, they didn't agree before he created the fold. She was the one trying to leave the Grisha. He was the one protecting the Grisha. And then they didn't agree after he created the fold. So the fact that they still don't agree is nothing new. And then when he says, you taught me that Grisha were superior, that's a problem in messaging of this season. They're starting to introduce the idea that Grisha are bad and that they believe they're superior, which I don't know that they all believe that. Like there are some snobs like Zoya who believe that they're better than other people, but they're just snobs, Like they don't believe that they're like better than other people because they've been oppressed their whole lives. They were unwillingly stolen as children and impressed into service in the army, and they haven't had any choices in their lives. But this season is asking you to forget that fact and to think that these people are bad. They're mad with power because Alexander has made them that way, and you should want what's coming to them later in the season. And that's wild to me. And then when he says you would have burned villages for your child, like
yeah.
How about a flashback?
Show don't tell. Show don't tell.
Right. And then, and of course she says you didn't have compassion. Last season he was literally grieving for the loss of Grisha. Upset left and right, going crazy. He tried to kill the king because of it. Because of what was happening to the Grisha. How is that not compassionate?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then she has the nerve to say you should have earned her love and not trying to take. You were the one that interrupted them. Literally in the middle. You interrupted them.
Cock blocking.
Stole her away, dumped the information in her lap, said you have to get out of here. Didn't give him a chance to explain or apologize. She poisoned the well. That was her fault. And that was appropriate because their relationship has been toxic for 900 years. A choice, but to then capture Alina and do what he did because by that point, she did think he was the villain. So... whose fault was that? His mom's.
His mom's fault. What was the next thing? Oh, so Alina does her thing. And at first I should mention, I think when it opened, the episode opened, she was remembering getting that amplifier, right?
Right.
And talking about like how it felt and how she could like take on the world or something like that. And it felt like they were setting up the whole, she might start to sound too much like the Darkling, or she might like this power a little too much. And Mal is like, kind of like, whoa,
Right. So now it's not enough that the Darkling is a villain and that the Grisha are not good. But Alina is also kind of a villain.
Yeah.
She's a hero.
Whoa, little lady, now settle down.
She's the hero of the story.
And so with that, when she uses her power to break through the fold, you can see that it's feeling good and it's working, and she starts to feel connected to the Darkling, right?
Right.
And it kind of fucks with her, and she like short circuits. She's like looking at her hands like, what the fuck? And passes out or falls down or whatever. And this is where they're attacked by now these are the Volcra, right? Or
right. These are just the standard Volcra.
Okay. Because I was like, I don't know, this one looked, if I remember correctly, kind of orcish. Like, it didn't look, I don't know, I think I was expecting something kind of pterodactyl looking, and it just looked thick. But then again, I don't remember what they looked like last season.
Yeah, I think they just spent more time, on the CGI this time.
Okay. So this beast fight on the ship, interesting. Yeah. with the siblings.
Yeah. Love them.
Yeah, I do. And Alina, at the end of it, after they deal with the beast, in a pretty cool way, they end up beheading it, right?
Right.
There's like some gymnastics, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah. Always gymnastics.
Alina, I think this is when she's like, she needs to get that other amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they crash land.
Yeah.
Right. Because the thing like broke a hole through the sail or something. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're powering it they have 2 tide makers on there that are powering the wind, but you still need the sail.
Right.
So, and by the way, the flashback that she has to the Darkling telling her that you can't do it on your own. He never said that.
Right. I was gonna ask you. Thank you for saying that, because when I said that she was connected to him, I was going to ask, I remember him distinctly saying that and wondering, was he connected to her in that moment and saying that now? But
I think it's just, I think they just manufactured it, and I don't think that he was,
or was that supposed to be
moment.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say, because it must have been her remembering him saying that in the past, right? Because we find out through these 2 episodes that they're not even sure the other is alive.
Right.
And so, yeah. It was playing for some reason. I think I thought he knew, and that he knew that the connection and the talking, and that it wasn't like dreams and stuff. But yeah, I guess it confirmed in this episode that at least, that they weren't sure the other were alive, and they weren't like connecting like secretly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at this point, he does know that it's real, but he hasn't necessarily figured out how to exploit it. And
that makes sense.
I think that this scene in particular played as a flashback that we were supposed to, kind of like whatever that effect is, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you're like, oh, sure, he definitely said that.
Right.
But he didn't.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. They receive a Ravkan welcome, and this was so fucking confusing to me. And I will say, look, I will say a couple of things. I got a bunch of things to say, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Again, did not remember a whole lot about the King plot from season 1. So, when he was like reading off all his titles, at first I started to write them down, and then it was just too, I was like, fuck this.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Fuck it. And then when she like got upset and the king, I was like, oh, the king.
Right.
I was like, this is a huge deal. It was like, at first I was like, oh, he's like from Highgarden or from Dorne or something. And it's like, oh, no. He's like a Baratheon at King's Landing. Like, he's like son to the king. Okay.
Right.
I didn't get that. Yeah.
Big Gendry
right.
vibes here. Yeah.
So yeah, I just have in my notes, he's a fucking prince. And this is where we learned that his brother Vasily has been so busy hunting Grisha and not focusing on their Fjorden problem.
Right. Yeah, this whole scene is whack to me. Like the fact that they have the army turn up everywhere.
Because they made it
always the army.
Because what did he say? He said something like, we got reports of a crash or something falling from the sky or something like that.
Right. It just happened.
Yeah, he made it seem like the air traffic controller.
Yes, from who?
Right?
Who for the satellite? Like, this is the 1800s, sir.
Because it literally just happened and then they walked up.
Right. From where? Like this is the edge of the fold. You're way far away from Osalta. You're across, like, never mind the fact that the hummingbird was just across the ocean in Novaya Zemlya. And then they fly across like 15 minutes. That's not how it works. And you go through the thing and then here comes the army. Like, where were you? And the fact that like, I guess what we're supposed to understand about this particular little group of army men, and that you have to accept about that, is that this little group in particular is 100% with Nikolai, no matter what the king says. Because otherwise, he doesn't mention anything about the fact that Alina is wanted, that she's being blamed for tearing up the fold and moving it, that he acts like, that he hasn't been a part of rounding up the Grisha and doing what Vasily said. Why? You're in the army. You should have were doing this.
How I got the impression for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was like in the banter, after they dropped the pretense and he was like, state who you are or you'll be shot or whatever, that it had been a while since they'd seen each other.
Yeah.
How long do you think he's been away at being a privateer or whatever?
That's a good question, because how old is Nikolai? Like, I guess he's supposed to be like 25, 26.
Because
I would
he
say
said
3 years.
Okay, yeah, because he said something like, is that you? And it's like something like, you've grown or something. And I was like, how fucking long is he? Right. And I'm like, what has he been doing? Just out here playing pirate, apparently, or privateer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and this guy, who apparently hasn't been in touch with Nikolai this whole time, is acting like he hasn't been doing what Vasily said.
Right.
Why? And then Nikolai tells him where he's harboring Grisha.
Oh, that's right.
So, like, the first army, that whole group, you trust all those guys?
Yeah.
They're supposed to go kill the Grisha. And so he just spills that news. And then the last little note about this scene is that these extras, there are more extras in this scene than there are with Alexander. In the final. So, yeah.
What's the next note? Oh, David is back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he asked him about the Darkling asked him about the chitterings. And he tells him about like how ill he's been and the whatever. And he asks him if he thinks that he would feel it if Alina survived. And then that's when I was like, oh, yeah. He's not certain that.
Right. He's not 100%.
They're each not certain the other is dead. Okay. Or is alive or whatever. You get what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, so he's back. And listen. I don't know. He's doing it for me this season.
Is he kind of hot or what?
I was like, I think it's in the next episode when he goes to them and he's like trying to convince them. And it's just the way he like delivered one of the lines and he kind of like turned to the side and leaned in and said what he said, I was like, okay, you're kind of cute.
Right. I love how he plays this whole thing. And this, to me, like, I know that this character is supposed to be, is supposed to be like on the spectrum and kind of like what, not really able to read social situations. But he plays this how Jinya should have played it.
Yep.
Where he's like, oh, really? Tell me more. Interesting. Yep. Isn't that, wow.
When he pulled her in for that hug and was like,
right.
Yeah.
He's right behind you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So good.
There was so much to love about this scene. My one complaint, it was at the top of the scene when Fruzy says that the recruits are arriving. They're not recruits. They're refugees. They're being hunted. Just because they're turning up here doesn't mean they want to fight for you.
They want to become a Death Eater, you bitch.
They're trying to live.
They want something to eat. That's it.
Oh my God. And he, for all intents and purposes, Alexander has raised these people from toddlers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so where else would they go? So, but then, yes, David and Jinya, gorgeous. Love that scene. It's
like, so good.
He's right behind me, kind of thing. Yes. Love that. And then he's kind of asking about the nature of it. And I love when he hands the Morozova's diary to David. And David takes it in the wrappings and wraps it up and then holds it like 2 feet from his body.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes. Let's think about what we can do for Murzos wounds, And then when he goes when he says, when he waves his fingers and he's like, just curious, are they with you now?
Yes.
Oh my God. Like a therapist, and are they in the room?
Yes. Can you see them now? What are they doing?
Are they looking at me?
Oh my God. That's so true. That was really good.
The mechanism, though, that they're talking about is this fragment. He believes that there's still a fragment in his hand.
Of the stag.
Right.
Right.
And for me, this is a choice that I don't love, because why do you need that? The whole point between Alexander and Alina is that they are the only two summoners that have ever, essentially have ever existed. They're the most powerful. They're a dyad, Kylo Ren and, and so, and Rey. And so they have, in the book, it's called a tether. And they're able to exploit this connection between each other both ways. And they learn, and this is it's like a companionship. So it's both a weapon and a balm for them. And to boil this down to there's a fucking, you
have a splinter.
Antler splinter. It's just, why? You don't need that. It's just sucks. But anyway, I love David.
David is awesome. I love that you know this so much better than I do, because it's I'm still enjoying it, but I love the fact that you're oh, this don't make no fucking sense, though. Right.
It's fun. I love it. I like the actors. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, but I will say it's fun. The crow stuff most of all, but it is fun.
Yes. They didn't have to have the fragment.
Right.
They could just make it a mystical bridge.
Right. Like everything else. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
So Alina, of course, is mad at Nikolai, and he's basically he had to lie, and that he assures her he's going to get his brother to stop hunting the Grisha. And the only other note I have about this, I hate her acting. I have that right. I hate her acting. And let me give you an example of like stuff like I don't know. It like when he said, you know what it's like to protect something you hold dear or something you love or something like that. And she looks over her shoulder at Mal, who's on the horse behind them. I was like, give me a break. Like, we get it. Like, why do we have to have that? It just feels so...
Right.
I don't know.
Manufactured.
Yeah.
Just in case you doubt that they really care about each other. We know they're best friends and that they're into each other. Maybe kind of like you are into your cute neighbor. I mean, I was, you know.
Listen, I'm telling you, this was my ship until Nikolai. I am a fickle bitch.
You're entitled to that.
And then Alina reunites with Nadia, who I don't remember at all. I was like, oh, new black person.
This is a different actor.
Okay. Yeah. And Zoya, who never found her family, apparently.
Yeah.
And she basically apologizes for being such a shitbag to her, but she admits that she was jealous.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this is nice, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
because in the book, she bangs Mal, right?
She bangs Mel and the Darkling. So
that's right.
Like, what are you jealous of? You know. But yeah, it's there's again some interesting points about this conversation that don't make any sense. Like, one, why does Alina not understand that you have more freedom as a pirate than a prince? Obviously. Two, what is truly fucked up in the changing of the script here is that if he was funding the caper in season 1 to kidnap her.
That's right.
From Asalta, the palace, to bring her back to Asalta. First of all, why? She was already there. Secondly, directly responsible.
Like, I appreciate you walking me through that because, one, I'm high. Two, season 1 was so fucking long ago for me. So long ago. So I'm like, yeah, that's right. She was at the palace learning to be a Grisha and all that. And then they had to and then they brought her back to the palace.
Right? Because Kaz and them were trying to break into the palace to kidnap her.
That's
right. To bring her to Nikolai so he could bring her to the palace. And if that's the case, then Nikolai is directly responsible for the murder of Marie.
Yep.
And Alexei.
Yep. Yeah.
So explain yourself, sir.
Because he could have just showed up and like requested an audience with her to
propose himself to her.
Yeah. And I guess like, and so this is interesting because this is even before she did what she did at the end of the episode.
Right. Crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. And they now, as far as the setting goes, they have this place in the side of the mountain, and this is kind of a book thing where in the second book, which we have thrown the entire back half out, they are in after she confronts the Darkling for a second time. She's like weakened because they have this explosion between them, and she's drawn off a bunch of his powers. And so she has to retreat to the apparat in this underground chapel type situation where he's got this whole cult in this underground cave. And so this thing in the side of the mountain kind of harkens to that. And then later when they get down into the caves, they're literally in a stone chapel down there at some point. And so that's what you're pulling from, but of course they're not actually there in person. The
Right,
dark
right.
thing isn't there in person.
Got it.
But anyway, so this setting is kind of book-ish.
Got it.
There, so.
So then we're with Wylan and Jesper, checking out that glass factory. And they're like, that ain't no glass factory.
It's just a house.
It's a really nice house. And they go inside and get busted, and they pretend to be piano fixers sent by Mr. Rollins. And it turns out Pekka has a little boy who takes these piano lessons. And Jesper ends up using his powers to fix the cut wire that the little boy admitted to cutting because he hates playing the piano. And apparently he sucks at it too. So, but you know who doesn't suck at the piano? Wylan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are reasons for that, which we may or may not see in season 3 because they do not get into it. So.
Okay. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
This little kid is a little shit.
Oh, he's terrible. Yeah. I find it a little hard to believe that an Irish gangster would have a child like this, but maybe he's just been out in the countryside
too long. Yeah,
with his governess and nobody else, and people are just, giving him candy because they're scared of Pekka. So,
I wonder what happened to the daughter, because they made it seem like it was such, like, this, finding out that he had this son was the thing, right? Like, just threatening this
that
boy.
He had somebody to threaten.
Right. But it's like, you knew he had a daughter because she 3-card Monty'd your ass back in the day. So I'm wondering, did I miss something about the daughter? Like, did she die already? Or, because why not, if you're going to threaten something he loves, why not threaten his daughter? If that's all you needed.
Pekka kind of forgot that he had a daughter. We're just going to say that she died of firefox. So.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Most people did, so we'll just go with that.
So Inej is headed out because her bladesmith knows the assassin that tried to kill her on the rooftop. He's a taxidermist.
Right.
And in this scene, Kaz just blurts out that Pekka killed his brother.
Yeah.
And then her immediate response was something like, then we'll kill him, or then we'll destroy him, or something like that. She's so ride or die.
She is.
Mm-hmm. And then he tends to her wound, and he gives her, because she has that cut on her arm, and he gives her this advice about going to fight this guy, exploiting his weaknesses. And he mentions what her weakness is in fighting. And she was like, what's yours? And he looks at her.
He looks at her.
Yeah. And then he says
and that's from book 2.
Aww. And they're about to kiss, and then Nina comes in.
Well,
they were about to kiss. No.
They're not, because he can't touch people, but
that's right.
That's right.
God damn it. I keep forgetting.
Right. They're as close as they ever were before. They're sizzling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. I keep forgetting he can't touch people. That's right.
And it's just, another departure from the book, though, is that she also has an aversion to touch because of her exploitation.
Got it. So Kaz goes to Homie, the guy from before, the one with Dregs, right? Who told him to get lost before, for men for a job, and he ends up beating their ass
single-handedly.
This was so good. I really like the way this was choreographed, the way it was pulled off. Like, it just looked good. I like when they do that, like, kind of slow motion or slow it down a little bit. Yeah.
And he says, just going back to the last scene, he doesn't admit, of course, that his weakness is her, but he says that his weakness is his tell is his limp.
Yes.
And the fact that people forget to look as to which leg is the real limp. So in this scene, the first thing he does when they lock the door is he switches his hand for where the cane is.
That's right.
And then whips their ass.
That's
so
right.
Again, they were not paying attention.
Not paying attention. And he tells them, "You're all with me now."
Yeah.
And
great scene.
Really
He's
great
so
scene. Inez just shows up at the taxidermist's job. She just showed up at his job. like, what's his name from, oh my God, The Princess Bride. Like,
yes.
My name is, like, it is what it is. You know why I'm here.
Yes. This scene is so, like, as everyone knows, I live on Archive of Our Own on fan fiction, and the beginning of this scene is so kinky. I'm sorry. Like, he's obviously more into it than normal, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is he a taxidermist or is he a fetishist? And then when she comes in, he says, "You could have just rung the bell, little one." And I'm like, oh my God, people are sitting down at their computers right now. And then she goes, "Ding, ding." It was so good. But anyway.
When she ends up cutting him behind his thighs, like, that was like we're supposed to believe like that was so, like, strategic, because like he couldn't do shit after that.
Right. She's hamstringing him.
Is that what that's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't know why it just fucked me up. I don't like even.
It's gross. Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on a second. Oh, and when she puts that, like, little dagger like thing to his neck, this was like really kinky.
See what I'm saying?
The way he was like talking and breathing and stuff, like all of this. And I was like, I don't know, I guess I forgot what kind of show this was, because again, we even took that week off. So I wasn't sure, like, is she gonna kill him? Because she had just, like, basically, like, pinned him up against the wall.
Right.
And when she put that thing to his neck, he looked at it, and he's basically, I actually had to rewind it. Saint Alina. So it's like Saint Alina.
Right.
And he says, "What will she do with me?" And she was basically like, "She ain't the one you gotta worry about. I'm the one making I'm making the decisions right now." And then she kills him.
Right.
And says a prayer. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
I forgot what kind of show this was.
Yes. While they're fighting, she reveals that she and Kaz figured out that he can't feel pain. And that's why...
Yes, that's right.
He was like a superhuman last episode. And that is a real thing. Mm-hmm. That is, it is a disability, and people really have that, and they do get into, like, more physical fields and things like that. But still, I just feel like that was too much in a show about people with special abilities to have somebody that then couldn't feel pain, and then she had to figure that out. It's just, just because you can't feel pain, how do you become an amazing assassin, though? That can fight if you don't know your limits.
I'm so glad you said that, because I did not write that down, and I questioned, like, I wondered if, like, I was missing something, and if they were, like, being metaphorical or something.
Right.
Because he was like, the problem then is that because he can't feel pain, he won't know, he doesn't know when to stop.
Right.
Something like that. And I was like, okay, can he really not feel pain? So then when she cut him in the back of the legs and then pushed him, like, up against the wall. Remember I said about the breathing and stuff?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, well, if he can't feel pain, why is he acting like that? And then I was like, oh no, he's just tired. Like she's, he's losing all this blood, but also he's just been going and going and going and going. And he's just like, he can still feel tired. Right. His body would still.
Yeah. He's still getting winded.
Yeah, exactly. Physically, he's feeling tired. So, okay. Yeah. So yeah, she just killed him.
Yep.
The Darkling learns for sure that Alina is back. And he confronts his mother. And it's like, you need to tell me where that Firebird is. And she's like, I don't know. But I do know if she gets to it first, you're fucked.
Thanks, Mom.
She's like, you scared?
Love you.
And then he cuts off one of her fingers.
Yeah.
To give to his, what's this kid's name again?
I don't know.
This little alchemist.
Right. The little guy.
Yeah, to do some bone magic stuff. And, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
supposed to show you, like, how corrupted he is, of course. That he would do this to his own mother.
I don't know. I felt like this is just him. Like, I was surprised that he did it. I hated that he did it because it was just terrible, but I didn't think that this was, like, below
like,
him.
that's where they were going, right? Like, you push somebody for 1,000 years, I probably will cut off your finger.
I honestly am surprised it took this long.
Right.
Shoot. And then I have here in my notes with a question mark again because I don't know what I don't know when I don't know it. I'm like, Jenya and David make plans to leave because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
If when she was like, meet me at this place, and if they were just like meeting up, or just like gonna run off.
Yeah.
And then Alina
again.
Go ahead.
In that moment, David is super cash. You know, he's cutting off his mother's finger, and David is like, "Oh shit, yeah, that does happen." And then, like 5 seconds later, he's busted into their room. We gotta go.
Get the fuck out of here.
He's off his rocker. Let's go.
Alina realizes that the Darkling is back too, and that she needs the Firebird. Which, I mean, we knew that. We knew that since we've been new.
And again, this stuff with Nikolai, where he's like, here's where the, Grisha are held by the army, and the soldiers, he says the soldiers were massacred. And it's an interesting word choice because it implies that the soldiers did not deserve to be massacred.
Yeah.
But I feel that they definitely did. Yeah. Oh, and then it's just funny how she's like, oh, he's the only one that can do the cut. Bagra, yes, but this is him. So is he the only one who can do the cut, or can Bagra also do it?
Because That's right.
What is going on? And he's like, well, I haven't been able to find his base camp. Again, this is where the Grisha are trying to escape to, so like, don't send the army to find the Darkling's stronghold. That's where the Grisha are.
But he decides that they need to get married to help not just the Grisha, but all of Ravka.
Right. And sure.
I was like...
And then she complains. She's like I'm some kind of pawn. You are.
You are, honey. You have been.
This is war.
Yeah.
And you are the second most powerful Grisha in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're a pawn.
Yep.
Get it together.
Jenya is caught.
Mm-hmm.
And this was so fucked up because the sounds, the screams.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought she was dead. I was like, damn.
Right.
And at first I was like, God damn it, David, you punk, do something. But then I was like, but also, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's like, boy, there was a part of me that was like, why hadn't you run before this? She told you to run.
Well, he's torn.
Yeah.
And Jenya's, kind of mommy-ish, and she's got to tell him to go, but he just kind of didn't have any choice. And I mean, this is bad. It's bad. I agree that the Darkling is bad. In this moment,
this is pretty bad.
It's bad.
I mean, it gets worse, like, later, we see, but...
Fun fact about the Darkling's horse is this is also Roach from The Witcher. So this is...
No, really?
Yeah.
So funny. Netflix recycling these horses.
They are recycling the horse. Yeah, he's a star horse. So.
Wyland says to Jesper, we can't tell Kaz about that badass kid. He bad, but he don't deserve whatever the fuck Kaz would do to him.
Right.
And then they have a little flirtatious moment, and Jesper, agrees not to. And then they have a little flirtatious moment, but it turns out Kaz already knows. He's like, "What's his name?"
Right. And Jesper's like, "Yeah, it's Albie."
Albie.
Wyland over to the side is like, "Oh."
He just looks at him like, "You had just said."
We not just agreed.
Matthias is, and I almost forgot about him at this point. He's told that he's going to fight in the little prison fight club. Mm-hmm. So when they're cleaning out these cages, mm-hmm. these are like prison guard dogs, right?
They're wolves.
But did we know they were wolves before he said that they were wolves? Like, were we supposed to think that? Because I was like, why do they have dogs down here?
Yeah.
And then, when like a prisoner gets away,
right?
And you they have the wolves, the dogs that they. So I wondered. So I was just like, oh, that's why there are dogs down here. But then when he got closer, I was like, wait a minute. And then he stands up and he says, these are wolves. And I guess they are special to the Fjordans.
Yeah, the Fjordan god, they're sacred to him because they're, the Fjordans are Norwegians, and that I guess what you're supposed to know about the animal cages down there is that those are the animals that they're using for the death matches. So they wouldn't just be regular dogs.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
because they started. Like, when he, knelt down, they started, they sounded pretty ferocious. And that's when I was like, they don't sound like dogs. Right. And maybe it's just that's on wild. Me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just on me. And I'm just stupid. But I thought we were supposed to think that they were just dogs, that they were down there. And because what were they cleaning out? Were they cleaning out other kennels or cages and stuff that had, hay in it or whatever?
Right, they're mucking the cages, and the guy, his roommate, said that his last roommate was killed by a dragon lizard. He's like, that's supposed to be those aren't even real. And he's like, it was fucking real, And so all those critters are down there. They might not be in the cage right now, but that's what they're cleaning up.
Okay, so he's told he's gonna fight, and I just want to say, I like this body type. This is a really nice, as I was looking, I was like, I think I like when a man looks like this.
nice meaty guy, big broad shoulders.
Yeah. I was like, this isn't bad. It's not, and because it's not too skinny, Right. He looks like he has some heft to him,
Right.
Anyway.
He's beefy.
Yes. He wins against this guy. Did this guy was his teeth filed, or did he just have fucked up teeth?
I think they were filed.
Yeah. He wins, and he ignores Nina, who did not get to speak to the guard that she was told to, because he was like, we'll have to talk after the match, right? He's like, find me after the match.
Because Pekka is there.
Right.
He's like, I'm not going to talk to you in front of Pekka. Get out of here.
Right. So this heifer goes down ringside. And when he wins, she proceeds to scream his name and follow him along. And I'm like, of course you got caught.
Drinking the most potent dumb bitch juice in this moment. Like, why?
And now this is not part of the plan from later, right?
No.
Because they don't devise the plan until she comes to him and says he wants me to bring you to him.
Right.
Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So this was just her being stupid. She could have just waited until after the match and talked to the guard.
Right.
Okay.
Presumably.
Okay.
If she had not gotten caught, she could just hide under the bleachers. But no, Pekka is everywhere, just like the Ratkin army is everywhere.
That's true. Like, why is he even here?
Right. And just because this is the only Matthias scene in these 2 episodes, I just want to take a moment to note a complaint about this storyline, in that I love Nina, I love the actor, I love you too, but this Nina and the actor is great, and it seems like she and the Matthias actor get along really well, and and they're quite a pair. But as we've discussed with the aging up, of all the people that they aged up, they should have reconsidered aging up Matthias, because the problem is that in the book, this is his first foray out into the world as a witch hunter. And he really hasn't done anything yet. He's just being he's like an intern.
Right,
so
right, that's right.
He's not culpable. He's not actually guilty of any crimes. He's a child soldier, just like the Grisha are. Mm-hmm. And he's getting out into the world the first time. He actually is talking to a witch for the first time. And then he comes to understand that he's been wrong this whole time.
That's right.
So this guy is almost 30 years old, and he's clearly a grown man. He's good at what he's doing. He's part of an elite squad of witch hunters. This guy is guilty of slaving, which is what he's in jail for. He is doing that. He has persecuted witches. So, maybe we should not be so excited about him getting out of jail. The man is a murderer.
You're like, maybe this is where he's supposed to be.
He deserves this. I know he likes Nina, and he's apparently good in bed, which I find hard to believe, considering religious issues.
Yeah, I thought he was a virgin before. Right. Yeah,
he was just accidentally good, but
Where was I? Oh, he learns, the Darkling learns that David took that journal, Murtaugh's journal.
Morzova,
thank you. Never gonna say that right. And the episode ends with Alina going to Nikolai, telling him that she's made her decision on his proposal after talking it over with Mal. And
there's so much to like about this ending scene. First of all, absolutely love when Darkling coughs in triplicate. Love that. Mm-hmm. That was great. He's got demon coughing. I felt that very strong because I have a sinus infection right now. So big mood. Then and so then he's got Fruzy taking Jenya, and he's like, make her an example. And Fruzy is like, with pleasure. Why? Why is she like that? We don't even know you. Jenya was the number 3 in charge. Grisha, number 2 for a long time. Why are you enjoying this? I don't know. And then, so the Darkling has this little tantrum, and he's trying to contact Alina through his hand portal, and I think it's maybe not clear if he's initiating this or if she is initiating it through her dreams. But either way, this is kind of the closest we get to how the tether works, where one or both of them can essentially meet in person while this is going on. And you don't really this is how they essentially develop a kind of conflicted relationship, not a relationship, but Alina is kind of questioning her morality and all this kind of stuff in the back half of book 2, because they're meeting through the tether this whole time, and that's how they build out this relationship where they're testing each other's limits and everything. You don't get any of that, but I loved that the implication of the tether is not just about it being summoners, but that they're soulmates. So that's where people are getting this shipping from. But
Gotcha.
What I loved about this scene is that he is this. Yes, this is where he licks his finger, and like Ben Barnes is so wrong for this. Like he licks his finger so wetly.
Wetly.
Really hates spit, but it was just like he's like, and then I'm like, what are you gonna do with that, sir? And then he uses it to put out the candle, and I was like, I couldn't have predicted that, but it was really something. Like, this is nasty. I don't know.
Have they renewed this already?
They have not renewed it yet, and so it's still on a knife's edge, and I'm wondering if they're going to cancel it. But it has been. This is the first fantasy show to break into the top 10 of TV from Netflix.
For Netflix, okay.
Ever. So I don't know. Maybe they'll renew it. It's going to be. Somebody was just saying on Twitter how dramatic it's going to be if they announce the Six of Crows spinoff and not Shadow and Bone, and they cancel that one, or they announce Shadow and Bone but not Six of Crows. It's people. It's
just do them both, please.
They need to just do both. Yeah, they need to.
So the next episode, Nikolai announces the engagement.
Oh my God, I forgot Nikolai. when he answers the door,
yeah,
he has never been hotter.
Yeah, this is true.
Like, until that moment,
yes,
I was kind of like, he's cute.
Yeah,
and then he answers the door, and I'm like,
yes.
oh,
yes. And this is, I'm telling you, I ship it. I absolutely ship it.
I'm into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He announces the engagement, and at another table, her people are kikiing over it. And Zoya is basically like, I don't know. In announcing the engagement, he also announces that Alina is going to lead the Second Army. Is that right?
Richard the Grisha.
Right. And Zoya is like, of course I'm going to follow, because to not follow would be labeled like a sympathizer of the Darkling or whatever. Or they call him his other name,
Kerrigan.
Yeah, they call him his Christian name.
Right. His fake name, let's be honest.
Right. I just like calling him the Darkling.
Yeah.
She's like, but I'm going to follow her, but I don't think that she's qualified. And I was like, fair.
Right. Zoya is like, between this and the last scene, this is what I call the Zoya rehab, because she was terrible in the first season.
Yeah, she really was.
Just bad.
Yeah.
But she has future stuff, and so they have to make her likable.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. And she came off, I think. The actress is pulling it off, I think.
It works. You're right. Yeah. You're like, well, she is a bitch, but she has a point.
Yeah.
I would probably be bitchy too, frankly.
And then I have here in my notes, is it gay? Because I totally thought Nadia and Talia's sister. Mm-hmm. Like when they were sitting next to each other in the scene, and they kind of nudged. I don't know. Nadia
is gay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right.
So we see Jenya again, and she's since getting eaten up by the chitterlings, and her face is like horribly scarred.
Yeah. Really bad.
Yeah.
Wait, where was this? Where is this in my notes?
And this is where the mom says to her something like, suffering is as cheap as clay and twice as common. So, do something with it. And so, do you have it?
Yep. Yeah. I have to page 4 and not page 5.
Oh, okay.
I went backwards.
So she's not going to be able to heal from this, right?
Right.
Oh, no.
She can only clean it up a little bit, just kind of like the Darkling does.
Right. And nobody else can do it for her.
Right.
This is just going to be what she looks like now.
Yep.
And the mom yelled at him about this earlier. When he had homegirl take her out to make her an example or whatever. And she was like, she was loyal to you since she was a child. And you used her for the king's pleasure or something like that. And now you're going to reduce her to an example or something like that?
Right. She's not wrong.
And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It still doesn't quite make sense to me. I mean, I get it. I just wish she played. I get why Jenya is the way she is about him and towards him. Yeah, because he did do those things. I just wish she had played it differently. It just they had her play it. I don't know. I just thought she was a bit smarter than that. But maybe she's just too traumatized. Maybe she's just like over it. I don't know.
She should have been, though, because she wasn't that way at the end of season 1. So they're rebooting how traumatized Jenya is and turning her into, like, shaming Alexander and all that stuff. If you recall, in the finale, she was still excusing Alexander. She was literally...
I keep forgetting that. That's right.
Yes, she was literally telling Alina that everything he did was fine because he's looking after them, including the stag horns in Alina's chest and the whole thing. And she just needs to, like, shut up and deal with it. So the fact that she's this quivering mess and whatever, and then ends up... And then also, they didn't necessarily have to do it this way because they keep flirting with whether Alexander is in control of the Nichevoya or not. He says he's not, then he says he is. If he had just gotten angry at Jenya and then they just overwhelmed him and went after him, like, why don't you play that he's horrified of these things and he can't believe what he did and this adds to his shame instead of him just being, again, a mustache-twirling villain.
Yeah. Mal doesn't want Alina on the front lines.
Yeah.
Leading the second army, but she insists it's what must be done, and when it's over, they both know what's real, with her decision to marry Nikolai, and when it's over, it'll be just them, and they're having this conversation and start kissing in the fucking hallway, and of course, Vasily sees it. But of course, like this, I guess this really doesn't matter though, because Vasily is dead, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, like later in the episode. So I guess the fact that he knows doesn't matter. Well, it did get Mal gripped up though. Yeah. I guess that's the consequence of that. I forgot that happened.
It adds a little drama in there.
Right.
But I guess the script here has Mal talking out of both sides of his mouth because he is saying very maturely, like, this is just a name only. She had tried to tell him earlier, if I go through with this engagement, you're going to be watching while I am announcing my engagement and getting married. You're going to be sitting in the row when I'm kissing this man. Can you deal with it? And he's like, look, we got to do what we got to do. And again, he says, like, we know this is real. We're going to be together later. It's fine. And, and he's like, but then in reality, every time, like, if they have an interesting relationship, there's not, like, I like him in his interaction with Nikolai. They have a very interesting, like, partnership. Like, if you can imagine this playing out in this kind of like little threesome kind of family, you know, where like she's duty bound to Nikolai and she does have to be with him, but at the same time she's in love with Mal and they get along and they're all like working together. It could work. But then they also have him immediately acting weird about it and being suspicious, but then saying it's fine, you know, giving her the eyeball and whatever. And I know that he's young and he gets to be conflicted, but that's not really how they're playing it. They're just like having him say both lines, you know.
I think what I've decided is that, like last time, I was like, I am Team Melina. That's the ship name, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like her with Nicolette. Because honestly, I'm at this point where I feel like he deserves better.
Yeah. Now you're Team Nicolina.
Yes.
Line here, he says, I came here for you. You're my flag. You're my nation, not this swamp.
Okay, Jon Snow.
Just remember he said that.
Say it one more time. You're my flag. Go ahead.
I came here for you. You're my flag. You're my nation, not this swamp.
Okay, got it.
And that he's very, very sure.
Okay.
That his, you know, his allegiance is to Elena.
Okay. Got it. I just remembered he's special too, right?
Yeah, he's got like special tracker abilities, but he doesn't understand how special he is.
Got it. Okay.
And we don't either yet.
So then this is when Genya is taken away and the mother shames him again. Like, you're going to make her an example and blah, blah, blah. And it's no use because he's like, whatever. I said what I said.
Right. His mom here is basically the audience. She's like, what is your goal? And he doesn't really have an answer because the writers don't fucking know.
He's like, I'm not going to stop until Ravka is mine or something.
Right.
He wants the whole country, apparently, or whatever.
And if that's the case, just a thought, but no one is at Asalta, the palace. So he could just go sit down. Like, if that's really his goal, he doesn't have to kill the king. The king is a vegetable. Vasily is going to basically kill himself.
Yeah.
Like,
he could be playing this a bit more, I don't know, political, I guess. But I don't know. He doesn't have a lot to work with, I guess. He just has, like, all the Grisha that are showing up looking for, like, a meal. And then he has the whole being responsible for the whole thing with the fold and stuff. Yeah, I guess he's not going to win over the hearts and minds. Okay, never mind.
I just ended this section of my notes with none of this makes any sense, so we have to rush back to the real story, the close.
Yes. And the Saint Emerins festival, basically, there's some sort of holiday where people dress up in masks, and they're going to use this to listen.
It's just Mardi Gras.
Basically. Listen. They're going to use this festival as the backdrop for their little caper, and if every fucking episode had a crow's caper, I'd be a happy girl. Listen. When he's like, so here's the plan, and they show it to you, I love that shit. I'm like, yes.
Yes. It's so Ocean's 11.
I love it. Every time.
Yeah.
I fall for it. So, what are they called? I can't even read my own handwriting. Comedy Brute costumes?
Comedy Brute.
Comedy Brute. Okay. Go. Like, I can't read my own writing.
It's in Italian, so.
Okay, gotcha. They're handing out these masks. They're going to wear these masks in this, during this, like you said, kind of like a Mardi Gras festival. And this mysterious compound that Wyland cooked up in these little spritzer bottles, right? And they're going to spray it around all these different places. It turns out they're all of these Pekka owned locations. And then Inez is going to give a note to Pekka's driver while Nina and Kaz are at the Emerald Palace. And at this point, we know that Nina has been propositioned by Pekka that he will get Matthias out if she will bring Kaz to him. So when he's like, yeah, Nina and I are going to the Emerald Palace, you're supposed to think, I think, that she's going to betray. Like, oh, why are they going to be alone in the plan, you know?
Right.
But not for a second did I think she was going to betray him.
No.
Yeah. And we find out later, obviously, she didn't.
And he doesn't even promise to get Matthias out. He just says he'll keep him out of the fights, which to me would not be enough.
No. I'm greedy.
He's holding his own, you know?
Right. Right.
Get him all the way out.
Get him out. Get him out. I agree. Alina is in training to use her powers, and she mentions that she feels both overwhelmed but also in need of that third amplifier.
Yeah.
You know, overwhelmed by the second, but in need of the third. And Nadia warns her to not lead the way using the cut. Don't lead the way the Darkling did. Mm. Although, what's her name? Toya's sister. Not
Tamar.
Tamar. Tamar is like, I don't know.
Right.
Sometimes you gotta...
I get that, but no.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta whip her into shape.
Like a little of both, maybe, you know.
And then David arrives with the journal. And they got him all cuffed up because they don't trust him. And he's like, listen, them chitterings are scary. Yes. Y'all don't understand. Because they wanted to know where the Darkling was. And he's like, because y'all don't want the smoke. Literally, you don't want the smoke.
Right.
He's like, none of your shit gonna work. It would be suicide.
Yes.
And then at some point, Alina, I think she's talking to Mal, where she floats the idea of using, I can't say it, Merzost.
Yeah, Merzost.
Merzost, to make monsters of light the way
the
Darkling has his shadow babies, his chitterling.
And again, we are supposed to see in this scene that she is willing to use dark magic, you know? So you should question whether Alina is truly good, according to the writers.
Yeah, because honestly, again, I remember seeing that picture talking about their clothes and how as the season progressed, hers changes to not complement Mal's anymore. So I'm just like, she's going to start wearing really dark eyeliner next.
Right, and like, she'll grow out her bangs.
Like Homegirl in Merlin.
Right.
When she started,
I love her.
When she started with that dark eye makeup, it was over. It was like, she is in her villain era. That's exactly what's going to happen here. So Mal is like, girl, slow down. Before we get to the dark magic, how about you give me some time to track down this Firebird?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, he figures out that there's this blade, right? Called the Relentless Blade. Of the Shuhan people.
Right.
And he thinks that might be something that can help cut through the chitterings.
Right.
And so he wants help, and he talks to Nikolai and Toya about it, and it's decided that they should go to Ketterdam and enlist the help of the crows to track down this blade.
Right. That, like most of the legends, there's some truth behind it, and this in particular was known to cut through shadow. So he's like, maybe it's something like this, and obviously we do have shadow. It's nice that they use Toya here as not just the brawn, but also the brains, in that he knows these legends and things like that. And he's kind of scholarly in that way. But also with David, when Alina goes to his room and talks to him in person, I love that she's, when she's like, so I need to know how Murzost works, and he immediately understands the conclusion that she has come to.
Yes.
And he's like, no. What you need to know is that all these books omit the cost, and that you are asking the wrong questions, and you need to be aware that there's a tether, and that he is, on the party line with you. So, pay attention. In this scene, especially when he leans over and he's like, "You're asking the wrong questions."
That's right. So good. Yes, so good.
It's just he's the way that he says it is very much like a messy bitch that loves drama.
Yes,
it's so.
That's when I was just like, oh, he's cute.
Yes.
Nina brings Kaz, to Pekka, using her powers, supposedly, right? Mm-hmm. And as he's being beaten up by Pekka, we see that there is this pox spreading in Pekka's establishments.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Inej, her job was at the Fifth Harbor, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And she got waylaid by these people that were being, just human trafficking.
Yeah.
And, Inej is not going to let that just go.
No.
And we'll talk about, the fallout of that later. But I have to say, I did not miss her. So much happened that I was right. I forgot her component of the note.
Right. Yeah, and he had said earlier, he dropped this little comment that, just knowing that you're there in the shadows will be a comfort to me while this is going down. And, that he would know if she was there or not. And so, you presume that he's upset because she's not there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she just cannot walk away from this.
Right. So Kaz, plays his part in being, he's lets himself gets beaten, and he plays his card, which is that he has Albie. And I forget what it was. He had named his one of his establishments the something Prince.
The Kalish Prince.
Kalish Prince, thank you.
Right.
And he's like, what, you're going to blow up another one of my places? And he was like, no, the other Kalish Prince.
He's like, just in case you don't get it, I'm talking about your son.
And he's like, and if you still don't get it, isn't it his little toy that he likes?
Yes.
He's like, and if you really don't get it, he's really fucking annoying, right? You
Now are you getting it?
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And now what I love is that, Nina has her hands up, right? Mm-hmm. And at some point, as they're, he ends up telling him, what this is all about, his brother and all this stuff. Jesper kind of, slides in the back door or whatever and goes over to the bar.
Right.
And it's just so funny because everybody else had their hands up. But once it got into it, and he was like, you did this to my brother, and you don't even remember his name. Nina just goes over to the bar with Jesper, oh, this is going to be a while. Let's sit here and drink.
He's not even looking at me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was they're fuck putting their hands up. Everybody in the room was like, oh, that's a family matter now.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go grab a drink.
Yeah, I'm not shooting nobody over this.
I'm not involved.
This drama here. This is personal. And he wants him to say his brother's name, but fucking Pekka doesn't even remember.
Of course. Just the way these two actors, I have several times looked up Like, what other things is this guy in? You know, this Pekka actor. Because it's just, he's so compelling. And when you get the two of them staring each other down like this, you really believe how menacing they are and how scary they are, even though they're not big people. I mean, Kaz, that actor's pretty tall, but he's not like a big guy,
right,
you know?
Right.
And this, you know, the Pekka actor is just a little guy, you know? But he's scary. And the way that the dynamics in the room shift back and forth between them, and how the horror at first, you're like, I know this is a con, but Kaz is really getting his shit beat. And then, you know, and you're worried that it's going to go too far before he can drop the hammer. And then you see the tide shift, and then it like gets even crazier when he's like, all you have to do is remember my brother's name, because you don't know that Albie is safe. You think he probably is, but you don't know that he is.
Right.
And you're like, oh shit, this guy is not going to remember. And everybody is like, oh my God, are we all going to die?
Right? Yes. Is he just going to shoot this fucking place up? It's like, please remember this man's name. Right. Remember that boy's name.
We have to die because some 12-year-old got conned? What's happening? You know, so good.
Yeah.
And when he says the trick is not to love is not to love. It's not to have someone you would sacrifice everything for. It just makes you weak.
Yep.
Of course, he's talking about Inesh.
So he tells him, if you sign, you know, he makes him believe that his son is, you know, buried 6 feet under, quickly running out of air. He says, if you sign this confession that you killed the woman who owned the menagerie, right? And that constable.
Right.
Then I'll tell you where your son is. And he does. And it's a similar, he's like, you're going to need all your men to be digging. So all you motherfuckers get out here.
Oh my God. The moment he says, I'm begging you.
Yeah.
And Kaz says, are you? And everybody's like, oh no. Yeah. And then he gets on his knees and the whole room shifts. They're like, oh.
Yeah.
That was
so good.
Yeah.
So as Toya prepares to leave for Ketterdam, Mal is arrested. Yeah. Because he's a deserter. And this is what the brother, Vasily, cooked up.
Do they have any other plot for Mal besides being repeatedly arrested?
He has to go. And it's like, it doesn't even feel, this is going to sound terrible, because this is a serious crime.
Sure.
Right? Going AWOL.
Sure.
But it doesn't feel like that's what this is. Every time he gets busted, it feels like they're just
Jesus Christ,
dragging him back to boarding school. Like, I don't believe anything bad is going to happen. I don't believe you. Like, so this whole thing is just like, either he's not going to make it, or when he gets it, because he's special. Like, I don't believe that this matters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And it's the third time. So, like, obviously he's going to get away.
So Vasily creepily basically proposes to Alina, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just like over this. I was like, ugh, I don't want this. Ugh, I want no parts of this.
I don't know if they cast this guy perfectly, or if they should be thrown in jail for this casting, because this guy is so weird. And like, I'm sorry to this actor, I'm sure he's not going to listen. So I will say that their point later about this family being inbred is so weird looking. And like, how does he look like he's 25 and 50?
Yes, he's like Shailene Whitley or whatever her name is. young old lady face. You look both really young and both our age at the same time. And I don't get it.
And if, and I've mentioned in the group about Dune face, this guy is in the Dune Sisterhood as a Harkonnen. And again, inbred. So there we go. Sorry, I'm not casting him.
I didn't make the decision. I didn't look at him and say, yes, he's perfect for this inbred role.
Somebody's doing this. It's not me. I'm just pointing it out.
Excuse me. Pekka is arrested at the cemetery.
Yep.
As he sees that his son is just fine.
Yeah. He was never in danger, really.
Yeah. Wylan and Jesper decide to give it a go, so it is officially gay. Yay! Wylan admits that he dipped out because he expected that that's what Jesper would have done.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jesper is like, I mean, I am a harlot. And you're probably right. But now that we know each other, and I know you're not 14, we should definitely.
Yes. Lord Jesus.
It is interesting how this actor, in like one part of the scene, he looks like a little, like he looks like a young guy and he's kind of like impish. And then he like gets a hold of Jesper and throws him on the bed, and I'm like, all right. Wow.
It's like he's an anime character. I'm telling you, I took one look at him and I told Kaylee, I was like, look at him. If his hair was just like blue or purple, he would be in an anime.
I like this casting for him a lot. I think it really works.
It's the same. Yeah. So yeah, they decide they're going to give it a go. And like you said, he gets physical. He's like, get your ass over here.
They're super cute together.
Kaz is mean to Inej because she wasn't there. She's like, I still got the note to the driver, but I had to take care of this, And he's like, whatever, here's your free papers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's just throwing rocks at Nymeria to get her to go out. That's a Game of Thrones reference.
Yeah, it is.
Don't watch that. Why are you listening to this show if you're not? But he's just trying to get her to go away,
right? Because
she is his weakness, and he's trying to get her away from him before, he is compromised because he loves her.
Now what party is this?
This is their engagement party.
I just sent it right. Go okay.
Yeah.
The Chitterings attack. Honey, this was so good because she like looks up and she can see, the like dark clouds going over this glass ceiling, and they crash through, and I just have here, bye Vasily, because they grip his ass up, and he's no more.
We covered that Nikolai is a bastard. Earlier we mentioned it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He
kind of drops the news on her.
Yes, and he says something like, I know, like, the rumors or something like that, like, people say, but it doesn't bother, it doesn't matter if I have, what's their last name again?
Lantsov.
Blood or not, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
She's like making a point about how his mom hates commoners, and he's like, well, if she hated the commoners, then why was she fucking a commoner when she got pregnant with me?
Why am I here?
Right. And she's like, oh, I guess you don't look that inbred after all, unlike your brother. And but I just want to complain about this ring. Like, this is the ugliest piece of costume jewelry I've seen in my life. Did they get it from a 25-cent machine? Is that even a thing anymore? It's hideous. It does not look like an emerald. It's so bad. What are they thinking?
Yes, because they spent all the money on the chittering.
I guess so. It is horrific.
I guess those things are still a thing. People are still putting their quarters in those things.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, there are these, I don't know if Jack was into this, but Michael was really into these like treasure chests where you like pour water on the treasure chest and it like dissolves the stuff inside, and there are like bones in there. It's like skeleton pirates with gold and like treasure and stuff that's in there. And you put the pirate together and they have some kind of treasure. And in order to figure out what the treasure is in the chest, it comes with one of those little, like when we were growing up and they had the cereal and there's like a piece of like colored glass on the inside.
Yeah.
You use that to find
like a decoder.
Right, decoder. So it comes with a little decoder, and then you figure out on the map, like the treasure map, what you're going to get when you dissolve the final piece.
Oh my god, that's so cool. No, I've never seen that.
It's very cool. He would love it. Maybe even still. It's very badass looking. But but this ring reminded me of a decoder ring. Because it looked like a fucking piece of plastic.
Not a Cracker Jack.
No. Like scratched up piece of green plastic. Oh, and then she says, she's like, you know, you're nice when you're yourself, you know?
Yes.
Like, and he goes, I'm a prince, Alina. Being myself is not something I can often indulge. You were just a pirate for 3 years.
I know, right? Okay, Prince Harry,
when
shut
were
up.
you not yourself, right?
Right.
You haven't been home.
You had
army.
You had an opportunity to go be yourself, and you chose to go be a privateer. You were being yourself. Like, what are you talking about?
You haven't been home since you were a teenager. What's happening? What are you talking about?
I don't get this dynamic.
Who's
at
making
all.
you a prince?
I honestly was not taking this family seriously.
No.
So, like, when the Chitterings attacked, I found this whole thing hilarious. I was like, why is the dad just sitting there? I'm so terrible. I forgot that he was...
Oh, but the line about the gelatin deer, that was hilarious.
Wait.
Where he's like, they're like coming in, they come in the place, and she's like, where's Mal? And he's like, we were just having a moment, Alina. Like, are you bored already? But he turns it into a joke because there's this deer on the table that's made out of gelatin, like an aspic. And he's like, that gelatin deer gave its life for you to have a good time.
That's right.
I love it. So funny.
See, they're so, like, good together. Like, so much more interesting than her and Mal and this guy, Darkling, who shows up. This was so, like, what is Nadia's brother's name again?
Adric. Yeah.
Adric figures out that in order for them to be able to, like, contact and interact with, like, solid objects and people and stuff, they have to be in a solid, you know, like, form themselves.
Momentarily solid, yeah.
And he and his sister use their powers to, like, wind blast them, basically, so that they can't form. And this works long enough for them to kind of, like, run out. And as they're running down a hallway, Alina's, like, behind. She's taking up the rear. And I sound like taking it up the rear.
Not yet.
She is, like, at the back. And she, like, catches a glimpse of the Darkling as he, like, walks down the... Like, I can't even... It's so music video from the 80s because he doesn't even turn to look in her direction, to the point where they play it where she's like, is that him? And I was like, girl, who else is walking in slow motion? Everybody else running for their life.
No one else is this dramatic.
Oh my God. But then he does appear, like, behind her, And I don't really remember a lot of this conversation.
Yeah.
I got distracted when her hair started crackling and shit.
Yes. So that's the activation of the tether, and because he's not really there. And
right.
So he's using kind of like hijacking or like piggybacking onto the power of the sea whip in order to contact her, and but he admits that he essentially drew her out in the hallway to keep her away from the action because he's quote trying to protect her because he's really just trying to kill the royal family,
right? And he says something like, I'm glad you mentioned that because you had mentioned earlier how he's like, can he control them? Can he not control them?
Right.
Because here he's like, they're just after the royal family, which implies some sort of control. Like you can tell them specifically who to harm and who not to harm.
But at the same time,
he says,
they're not targeted enough for her to stay in the room.
Right. And that he was like, they can get like overzealous or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, is that bullshit then? Like
and you can't control them.
Right, exactly. But then that means you can't control them. Or did you say these are your targets, but like, I don't care about, casualties,
yes,
collateral damage. So, and does he doesn't kiss her, right? He starts to, and
he just touches her. Yeah.
Right.
And just says, I'll be back for you. Let me help you.
Right. And this is Adric sees this, but just her. Yeah. He can't tell. He can't see. Right,
he sees the electrical cloud, but not anything else.
Right. Meanwhile, mom, the Darkling's mom, Bagra, is that her name? Bagra. She freaking, what does she do to her hands exactly?
She breaks her hands to get them out of the cuffs.
I thought so. And listen, I remember thinking, I don't think I wrote it down, but I remember thinking when they first showed us that they were being held together, like next to each other, I was like, you just want them to escape? Just give them the keys. Give them the keys. Yeah.
I was like, leave them on the desk.
I was like, do you not have any other rooms that you can put her in? So yeah, she breaks her hands to get out of the cuffs and has Jenya then heal her.
Right.
And then she uses her power to break open the door, the gate, the cage.
She uses the cut, which, again, earlier in the episode, they said that Alexander's the only one who could do the cut, except for Bagra, so he's not the only one who can do this cut.
I'm trying to remember what happens.
And she fixes your finger, so.
That's right. She, and then Jenya stops to, like, smash... Your sigh says it all. Because the mom was like, will you bring your ass home? I was
like
what
we're trying to escape.
Like, girl, what are you doing?
How convenient that they kept the whole lab in that one room.
Right.
For her to trash.
Exactly. Now we understand why that one set piece had to be both the lab and the prison. And then as they're trying to escape through Alina and oh my god, Tamar, Adric, and Nadia. Is that everybody?
Right. Yep.
Where's Nikolai? We don't know. Right?
Yep, he went off the other way.
Okay. As they're trying to escape through the tunnels, they encounter the Darkling, and then she's like, y'all see him, right?
Yes.
I am not crazy, right? And they're like, yeah. She uses her powers to keep him and the little chitterings at bay so that they can get away because Adric's been hurt by one of them, right? Like his arm.
Right.
Is pretty badly crushed.
It knows that he's powerful and that he can't summon without his hands, so it's like crushed his hand.
Got it. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. Oh my God. Oh, acrid hurt. Okay, there you go. I was Adric. Sorry.
Yep.
And so they end up escaping because of that. Like, she's able to hold them off while they get out, and then Tamar comes back for her, right?
Yeah.
And they get away because it looks like the ceiling, their powers kind of cause like this explosion, and it looks like they're about to be sealed off, right?
Right.
Like the ceiling's gonna fall. It's gonna be a Cersei and Jaime moment. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I have like flashbacks. Like,
we are so traumatized.
Vietnam flashbacks, and they come the helicopters.
We are
the whole thing.
So traumatized by that series. You and I are bonded in that trauma. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Conversation again does not make sense. So he says to her, she's like, "You lied to me." Again, like they didn't really have a chance to like fully talk. Like, was he supposed to tell her everything right up front? You know, she didn't even know. He didn't know if she was going to be able to really fully embrace her powers and if he was really understanding. But anyway, and so he's like, I was honest about the things that mattered. Grisha being hunted, we could rule together, we can change the world. This is stuff that he said before, so that's good. And she's like, and he says, like, how do you see this playing out otherwise? Which is a good question. He's like, do you imagine that you're going to get this happily ever after with your prince and your tracker curled in front of the throne? I've seen you for who you really are, and I've never turned away. Can you say the same about them? And he's completely correct in that. And then she says, they're not the ones obsessed with power and control. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are.
They're the fucking royal family and the army, and they're killing Grisha. I know. Like, what part of this don't you understand?
They're not even trying.
No. They just think they deserve it. And Nikolai is part of the problem because he tried to kidnap you and got your best friend killed. So
yeah. I wonder if they're ever really going to break that down. Like, no. You were responsible for all of season 1.
No, they won't.
It's like, okay, yada yada. All right.
They don't even know that they're making this mistake. They just want the Darkling to be bad, and they want, Alina's side to be good. They want Nikolai to be good, and anything he does is fine. So.
Like little roles that they just place them in, and that's it.
But what I do like, though, is that, like, I don't know how much leash they really gave Ben Barnes to be here, but he's still trying to play a little bit where, like, she's battling the Ninja Boya and, really starting to exert her power against it. And if you watch him, he's, like, leaning around it and grinning. He's like, look at you. It's kind of funny. And it's not until she really kind of, there's like an explosion between her and the Ninja Boya, and it's like reabsorbed back into him, and then he like growls.
Yeah.
But that's that Merzost coming back into him,
Yeah.
So
I definitely feel like, again, having not read the books, we are supposed to feel like she is dabbling, gonna get drawn to the dark side. And that, like, from the beginning, when they had her and Mal's night in that hotel be interrupted, I was like, oh, this ain't happening.
Right.
Like, I ship it, but it's not happening. I'm real curious to see what does it, because like right now Mal was snatched up, but they didn't show him after that, right? Like all this shit jumped off. We don't know where he is,
right?
So he's going back to boarding school.
Is he?
No, He's not. Because I really wanted to see the whole... I guess that means he's not going to be going to Ketterdam, right? Because Toya already left, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's really all I care about, now that I think about it. Never mind. As long as somebody is still going to get the crows, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Mal or not.
He's not.
Okay. And I do like that the crow stuff in Ketterdam is like pretty much resolved. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now they're gonna go on this quest.
Yeah.
For the sword.
It's like a video game. I'd play this.
It is. They're pretty useful, you know. If they've chosen to use them in this way, they're pretty useful.
Yeah. So that's it. I don't think there was any. That's the episode ends, right? With them being them running off.
That's it.
Like I said, I think that I have to double check the schedule, and I'll touch base with you. I think that we can do one more next week, but then after that, I won't be available.
Sure.
And I'll have to figure out. Just again, I don't know. What the situation is going to be in terms of like how easy it'll be for me to record, the time difference, you know. But again, it's not like I'm going there and I have great plans. And I'm also getting nervous because, you know, we're about to end the podcast and I'm going to go purchase my ticket. And I was starting to like talk myself out of it.
No.
I will do it. Y'all gotta stop me. I will do it every time. I was sitting there thinking, like, maybe I shouldn't. So
you need to.
Yeah, I do.
The place is already set. You just have to get there.
I just have to get there. That's true. Okay. So anyway, that was therapy. Thank you guys for listening. Sarah and I should be back next week to talk about, 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then we'll just have the one. Yeah, you know what? I think I did do it that way on the schedule. I definitely want to do 5 and 6, and then it'll just be like, if there is any kind of break, it'll just be like anticipation of the finale.
Great.
If that makes sense. So, okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for listening.